Hello, Internet. My name is Roro, and welcome to my channel. I hope everyone's having a good day. Today, I wanted to talk about a story from when I was 21 and how my friend almost caused me to be homeless in a state that I'd never been to, all the way on the other side of the country from where I grew up, from my family, from anybody I knew. And then what happened once I got there after I had to figure everything out. And yeah, let's get right into it. So, just for a little bit of context, I grew up in New Jersey. This is a friend that I knew in high school that I knew for a while. I was never super close with, but we always had a lot of mutual friends. So, I always ended up hanging out with them. They were always around, and we had a lot of mutual interests. So, they were someone that I spent a decent amount of time with. And I had gone to college. I moved out of state. I was there for 2 years, but then I ended up dropping out, moving back in with my parents, and not wanting to be in New Jersey, not wanting to be in my parents' house, really just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, and how I wanted to make that happen. Up to this point, since I had dropped out, I was living in my parents' basement, smoking a ton of weed, pretty much just making beats all day, every day, working on music with my friends. So I was having a good time, and I was trying to, get my career in music started, but nothing was really clicking. And any opportunity that I thought that I had, either the people that I was supposed to do it with, they ended up flaking, or the opportunity fell through. So every time I ended up just back at my parents' house, kind of doing nothing. So I was hanging out with this friend that I mentioned earlier, talking to him about this stuff, and he says to me, "Hey, I have family in New Mexico. I'm thinking about just moving out to New Mexico and being out there and living with my family." And I immediately was like, "I'm going with you." And he was kind of confused and like, didn't take it seriously necessarily. But in my head, something clicked. Intuitively, I knew that I had to go to New Mexico. It's just what felt right. Now, maybe that was from desperation, me just wanting to do anything besides live in my parents' house. But I don't know. Something in my gut told me that this is what I had to do. And as soon as I made that decision, I didn't doubt it. And it was a few months, and then we ended up going. Before we had actually left, though, I met his girlfriend, who was somebody that I knew who they were. They went to the same high school as us, but I never had met them, never talked to them. And they were cool. I met them a couple times because they were also going to move to New Mexico with us. So it was going to be me, my friend from high school, and his girlfriend that were all going. And like I said, I made this decision very quickly, and I was 21 years old. So I didn't have a lot of time or means to save my money to prep for this move. I think I had about $300 to $400 in my bank account when I actually left to go out there. And that was to cover the cost of actually getting there. We drove my grandma's old car, the three of us all packed in with whatever we could fit, drove it across the country from New Jersey to New Mexico. And I was told by my friend that we were going to be set up when we got there. His uncle owns a paint business. We can work for his painting business full time. He also owns a bunch of property, so we'll be able to get a place that we can rent. His uncle will be our landlord, which is nice because it's somebody that we know. And he even made it seem like we had options of where we could potentially live because this guy owned so many different places. So I was like, this is great. I'm going to get new experience. I'm going to learn new skills. I'm going to actually have a job that I can make a decent amount of money. I'm going to do something that's cool. I could apply it to my art potentially, just the knowledge of paint. Being out in New Mexico, it's a beautiful place I'd never been to in my life. New inspiration, new experiences. It seemed like the optimal thing for me to do. So yeah, the day came. We start driving out there. It took about, I think, 3 days about to get out there, alternating driving. At one point, we stopped and got a hotel and we slept for like 4 hours and then we just kept going. But other than that, we were driving the entire time through the night, through the day, just to get there as quickly as possible. So, like I said, we're going from New Jersey to New Mexico. When we were in Texas, for anyone who doesn't know, Texas is the state that comes right before New Mexico if you're driving east to west. My friend calls his grandma and tells her that we are going to be there in a couple of hours. And this is the first time that he told his grandma that we were coming to New Mexico to live there. I was under the impression that his whole family knew we were coming. Why would I doubt that? I had no reason to doubt that. And this was the first red flag of things starting to go wrong. And we hadn't even gotten there yet. So after days of driving, a weird last couple hours of tension in the car, not knowing what to expect, we basically show up at his grandparents' doorstep. His grandma greets us, visually upset at the situation. Understandably so. You know, this is her grandson, so of course she loves him and she wants to be there for him and help him, but she was not expecting him and his two friends with a car full of garbage to show up at their house. And so I guess my friend's plan was that, you know, we got there towards the end of the month, so we would stay at his grandparents' house for a couple days or a week until the place that we could rent was available that his uncle owned, and then we would move into that. So the first day that we meet his family, we immediately are told that he has nowhere for us to live and he doesn't have jobs for us to work. So I went from thinking this was all great. I'm going to meet his family. We're going to be around these people. I'm going to have a great job. I'm going to have an awesome place to live. You know, we weren't even going to get it for free. I was under the guise that I was going to be working and paying rent. It was going to be a normal situation. But then I get there. I'm already there. And I realize, or I don't realize, I learn that none of that was ever true. And I'm 21 years old. I have probably $300 left in my bank account, if not less. And we're just kind of in limbo. Now I'm freaking out. I already have really bad anxiety as it is. And it's hard for me to trust people. So this was extremely difficult for me to deal with. Luckily, New Mexico is such a beautiful place that positive energy kind of carried me. And my friend and his girlfriend also kind of had this, like, I guess now people would call it toxic positivity, where they kind of didn't acknowledge the real gravity of the situation that we were in. And at the time when I was younger, I had way less self-worth and boundaries that I felt comfortable placing. So I kind of let the situation just take me over, and I was just in the ride. But I also didn't really think I had another choice. So immediately, we're just thrown into this, trying to find other jobs, trying to find some place that we could live. All of the housing is way too expensive for us to afford. All of the jobs that I'm looking at, even just regular jobs like Walmart, Target, you know, Panda Express, any type of normal job, most of them required you to be bilingual because it's New Mexico. A lot of people speak Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. So I must have applied to literally 50 different jobs and didn't get any of them because I wasn't bilingual. And also, there's just not a lot of work out there in New Mexico that's just available for people to get jobs. It's a much smaller place. You know, I come from a place like New Jersey, New York, where there's jobs everywhere because there's so many people, there's so many businesses. New Mexico is a whole different thing. And my friend's grandparents had given us sort of an ultimatum that we had to figure this stuff out because we can't just stay with them forever. Understandably so. You know, by the grace of God, they let us stay with them for what ended up being a month, or actually more than a month. It was like 5 weeks. So I don't know what we would have done if they weren't able to provide us with a place to live and food. That was another important thing. None of us had money. It's like, looking back, this was such a stupid thing that we did. It was so poorly planned. We were not ready to do it. They were younger than me even. They were 19, 20 years old. So we were young, stupid kids. It was nuts. It was a horrible decision logically. So what ends up happening is his family is kind of like, all right, we weren't expecting this. You guys are here. Something's got to happen. We were trying our best to find jobs, find a place that we could afford to live, but it just wasn't happening. And eventually his family conceded, kind of, and they let us stay in this weird loft above the paint company's paint garage. So it wasn't really like a proper apartment. Like the ceiling and the wall didn't connect. It was like an industrial building, like a warehouse type building. It wasn't residential. There was a kitchen and like a bedroom kind of, but it was like not full walls either. So this entire apartment was kind of open. And there's 3 of us. And they're a couple and I'm just me. So they of course get the quote unquote bedroom. So I end up sleeping on an air mattress behind a couch in the living room of this paint garage loft. And my air mattress ends up popping. So I end up sleeping on a popped air mattress in this weird like sheet fort that I built. And this was the first time I ever had like truly lived on my own. Like I lived alone when I went to college for 2 years, but I was in a dorm. There was much more stability there. This is me first experience, like 21 years old, living on my own. And I ended up having to borrow money from my parents to pay for the first couple months of rent. I didn't end up getting a job until being there for 3 months. And I ended up getting a job as a crossing guard for the school system. And I worked 2 40-minute shifts a day, one in the morning when all the kids went to school, one in the afternoon when all the kids left school. And I made $12.50 per shift, $25 a day, 5 days a week. So I was literally making $100 a week, $400 a month total. The rent for this loft was $650 a month. My portion of that was $200 a month. So I was making $400 a month. My rent was $200 a month. So I literally was living off of essentially $50 a week for everything else. And luckily, in some crazy universe, trippy fashion, unexplainable, I ended up meeting my partner when I was living in New Mexico. And it's crazy. Honestly, that's a whole other video that I could make. Just a short summary. Like I said, I had nothing. I had a popped air mattress that I was sleeping on. I had no money. I had nothing to offer her. And luckily, she kind of helped me survive a little bit, you know? Like, there was definitely a lot of $5 Little Caesars pizzas that she would just kind of casually buy, knowing that I had no money for food. Or she would take me to McDonald's, you know? Like, she literally just met me. I had nothing, and she was helping me survive. So I think I wanted to tell the story just because I think it's such an interesting story and it was such a big lesson for me to learn. One, you shouldn't trust people at face value. You should verify everything, especially in a situation like this. Don't just take people's word, even if it's your friend. And 2, sometimes a situation that seems like it's not the best idea, if you feel it in your gut that you're supposed to do it, maybe you are supposed to do it. Because it ended up being, I think, ultimately the reason that I moved out there was to meet my partner. And we're still together to this day, 10 years later. So sometimes you got to just trust your gut and see what happens. I'm very lucky I didn't end up being homeless, you know? I jokingly called myself a half hobo because I kind of didn't have a proper place to live, but I did have a place to live, and it was comfortable enough where I was able to survive easily. But I don't think most people would put themselves in that situation, especially talking to even my close friends. They thought I was insane. But I don't know. Sometimes you got to just do stuff that feels right, as long as you're not hurting other people, and don't trust people. That's pretty much all I'm trying to say with this story. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed. I have a bunch of other videos on my channel. I talk about mental health, art, music, other stories from my life, and I upload a video every Sunday. So you can come back next week for a new one. I have a Discord server and I stream on Twitch sometimes. So I have the links in my description. Links in the description for that. Oh my God, I can't talk. This is a longer video than I normally do. And I normally make a little bit of original music for the outro of every video. But I think for this one, I want to play a beat that I made when I was living in New Mexico in 2013. I actually made this beat laying on the couch of my friend's grandma's house one of the first days that I was in New Mexico. So, yeah, hope you enjoy, and I'll see you guys next time. What? Also, I wanted to add just at the end, my friend that I talked about in this video, I don't I don't talk to anymore. Pretty much after I left that situation, we stopped communicating because, he kind of fucked me over in a lot of ways. And again, there were so many other things that he did that I could get into, but I'm not going to in this video. But I will say the last time I talked about this story or something similar was on my Twitch stream, and he ended up coming to my stream and interacting with me while I was talking about it. And somebody had to have told him that I was talking about him because I didn't mention his name, nothing like that. But somehow he found out from somebody that I was talking about him. Now, this channel is not really something that I have publicly known with people I know in real life. But I know that there's some people that know me in real life that listen to this channel. So, my friend, if you're listening to this, you taught me how to look out for red flags in people and the type of people that I should avoid in life. So I'm very grateful for that. And I hope you're having a great life.